Revolution Show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, or people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, revolutionaries, Dr. Charles Corprew. What's good with you? I hope all is well, and that you are, as we say here, finding your peace, fulfilling your revolution, spending time with your community, holding yourself accountable, finding your midwives, holding them accountable, doing what you need to do to make sure that you're making the right choices to fulfill your revolution, that you have revolted and evolved into the person that you need to be to fulfill your revolution. And knowing that this revolution, somebody revolutionaries is looking at you and saying, man, woman, person, I want to do that. I see you doing it. I see your humanity in this, and I want to be just like you. That's right. And to remember that even though it's a revolution usually closes, if you look at our logo, that revolution has a little bit of an opening, because we are hoping that your revolution comes to an end, and that you can always be thinking about what the next revolution of your life is. And that's the thing. Here at What's Your Revolution, we want you to not only answer that question, but also be able to fulfill it. And you know that we are here with you on this journey, and so proud of those folks who are taking and honoring themselves and being a part of someone's revolution and being part of their own revolution. We've had so many conversations over the course of 6 years, and I want to welcome back to the show one of my good friends, Chazz Scott. And it's interesting because, you know, when you meet good people and you know that they're actually going to go out in the world and do like the things that they actually say that they're going to do, you know, that's the people that you know. That's the revolution in folks. When people say, you know what, I'm going to write a book, and that book is going to be influential in people's lives. Okay. And then 2 years later, when we talk again, he was like, yo, I wrote the book. And like, what? Yeah, that's the revolution right there. And so I want to welcome my good friend, my dear brother, as we say on the show, Chazz Scott. I want to make sure that I give him his flowers. So let me make sure I read it. Chazz Scott is author, keynote speaker, mindset and resilience coach, and author, and he is the founder of Supermentum, a consulting agency specializing in training leaders, entrepreneurs, professionals to achieve their potential personally and professionally. He is the executive director and chief creative optimist for Positively Caviar, right? Make sure that you go back to episodes in 2019 to make sure you listen to our first conversation about Positively Caviar and what he's been doing with teens to make sure that they have positive mental health outcomes. He, like myself, was a BE Modern Man, and then selected a top 30 under 30 for HBCU Buzz and received the Positive People Award by the Baltimore Times. So I want to make sure that people understand that this dude is doing this thing. Chazz, welcome to the show. Welcome to the What's Your Revolution show. How are you?
Charles, I'm doing excellent, man. I'm very excited to be here. Appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate the flowers. They are received, brother. Appreciate all the work that you're doing as well.
No worries, man. I look, as we say, this is a platform not for myself. It is a platform for the folks that we bring on the show to highlight the amazing and revolutionary work that they're doing. So what's been going on with you? We haven't talked in 2 years. You know, the last time I remember I was sitting in my office at my beloved Camelback. It was late one evening, and we just had a robust conversation. But that was 2 years ago. We were in the midst of a pandemic. What's been going on with you?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. And I think over these past 2 years, it's actually like kind of changed the timeline of life with COVID and everything. It's almost like things have sped up. But let's see, I got married last year. So me and my wife just had our first year anniversary last week. And then obviously I've written a book. We're still building out our nonprofit organization to help youth with mental wellness resources in Baltimore and DC. I'm really just trying to balance life, to be honest with you. I think, you're scrolling on social media, you're trying to do the best that you can in whatever hat that you're wearing. I'm trying to maintain a balance, what I like to call equanimity, some peace of mind. And usually that comes in the morning. So I've been really dialing in on my self-care, ironically, over these past 3 or 4 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we're going to get there because there were so many things in that my mind is beginning to scale. Like, what are the questions that I want to ask him? I'm going to start with this because we've had, Chris Matthews on, a good friend of the show, also was at BE Modern Man last year, and really good brother who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and really how to have a healthy relationship. So I want to dive into that really quickly, because I remember you saying in the green room as we celebrated your 1 year anniversary, you said that you've learned so much about yourself in your first year of marriage. I would love for my revolutionaries to know, as they have been thinking about marriage, that they're thinking about their relationships, whether they've been married for, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, they probably can relate and empathize and sympathize with what's been going on. But what are the lessons that you can talk about, after being married 1 year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is patience and empathy. And a lot of that really comes with time. So I've always been on a journey to master myself, master my thoughts, master, how I show up in the workplace, master how I show up as a friend, no matter what hat I'm wearing. And when you're in a relationship and you're in a marriage and you're living with somebody full time, right? Not when you just want to hang out, you realize that you have to have really good understanding of that other person. And that means understanding their habits, understanding how they grew up as a child, understanding, they may not think like you, and that's okay. But you have to be open and willing and available to realize that this is the person that you've chosen to be with, and she's not always going to have the same. She's not always going to agree with you, and she's not always going to say, give you the answer that you're looking for. So I think the biggest thing I've learned is understanding empathy and communication. And I think the biggest thing out of all of that is, we've lived together previous, and anybody that is in a marriage, I would definitely say live together with your significant other prior. That way you already know, who's doing the jobs around the house, taking the trash out, who's doing the dishes. But one thing that I realized in my own life, in my daily habits throughout my day, I didn't realize that I did certain things throughout the day. So, for example, my wife is like cooking downstairs, and unconsciously, unbeknownst to myself, I'll go up to my man cave and just start doing my man things, read my book, listen to some music, blah, 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 blah. And, maybe my wife wants to hang out, right? So I have to be very conscious of the things that I'm doing throughout the day and realize that there's another human living with me, and she requires patience, care, love. And that's something you just don't think about. If you want to live with somebody, you just, okay, we're living with each other. Let's do it. But you have to be very conscious of the time that you spend with each other, and knowing that they have certain things that they enjoy and like from a significant other, and just being aware of that. So that's one of the things I've definitely learned.
No, I appreciate that, and I've learned intimately communication is key. Saying the thing that needs to be said when it needs to be said, without fear and reciprocity. And I'm sure I'm going to make the assumption that your queen has been able to say to you, "Hey, I want to spend some time with you, and this is what this time I would like for this time to look like for us. You've been a hardworking man. You've been doing all these things all day, and so have I. And now it's our time, And the realization that regardless of what your relationship looks like, we are humans. We need care and love, communication. And as you said, empathy and sympathy. And that is, those things come together to make hopefully good relationships. And as I know, relationships are not easy. And an interesting thing that I saw is that they're not easy, but they shouldn't be hard. And right. I think that's the thing that we have to think about, is that relationships are not easy. They're, you're bringing together two people, who have not been together, particularly if you're moving in together and moving into a space. I'm always under the belief that people shouldn't move into the other person's space, that you find a space that you can create together.
Right.
Because in my opinion, once you move into someone else's space, now that person has to, and maybe it's just my personal experience, but now that person has to then rearrange their mindset and lifestyle to include someone else into it, instead of saying, hey, let's figure out how we create a space together that's not, my territory or your territory. We can actually do that together. And so it is a really interesting thing. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that piece. And revolutionaries, I hope that you think about this, even in your marriages or relationships. How can you be more empathetic? How can you be more sympathetic? How can you be more communicative? How can you give of yourself, even sometimes when you may not want to give of yourself, which is a hard thing. As revolutionaries know, I talk at length. I am an introvert. And so once I am done communicating for the day, hey, we can be in the same place. Just put your leg on me. Right, but you ain't got to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to talk to me. I enjoy the company, but often sometimes the voice, the noise becomes piercing to me, and I'm like, what's going on? Please stop talking. Please stop talking. Don't stop talking. Stop talking. So, yeah, but no, I appreciate you saying that. One of the things, and I want to dive in. I'm going to get to our signature question at some point during the show, but you talked about the balance of life. And I think that's really, really critical, because we're moving so fast these days. It's been 3 years since I left my beloved New Orleans. It's been almost a year since I left Camelback. I mean, it's flying by so fast, and finding balance, because you look up and the days, Chazz, seem to be like rinse and repeat. It almost feels like I'm not aging myself and you've seen this movie, but it feels like Groundhog's Day. Mm-hmm. Like the same day is happening over and over again. How are you, and this is the question, how do you slow it down with balance? That's the question. How do you slow these days down? And so you don't look back and say, where the hell did the last 3 years go? And what was I doing? How do you do that? How do you slow it down?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, at least for myself, and a lot of what I talked in my book is a morning routine. So for me, before I do anything, I have a morning routine. So typically it's like a mile run in the morning, and I'll do a quick meditation session for about 20 minutes in the closet. And then, I'll do some reading. But and when it comes to balance and just things happening so fast, we all have desires. We want to earn more. We want a new job. We want a new car. We want a new house. There's just things that we just unconsciously yearn for. And then not only that, it's going on social media. People are doing this. People are doing that. One of the biggest things that's really sort of calmed me and given me sort of a relief knowing that I'm on the right path and I don't have to rush it is a meditation session in the morning. And it's really set me up for the rest of the day, because number one, I'm more conscious and aware of what I'm thinking. I set my intention for the day. And, when I'm a closet meditator, I like to go in the closet, dark. I got a pillow. That is my safe haven. That's my space. And when I come out of the closet, I feel like a newborn baby. I'm ready to go. Wow. I'm tapped in. And I also find that when I do my morning routine, my life is much more joyful. There's more synchronicities. There's more flow. It's like this underwater, this river that just flows to and through me of just joy and just a knowing that I'm on the right path. And when I don't do a morning routine or don't do the things that I know I should be doing for my mind, body, and soul, I feel off. I wake up in the morning and I'm either sweating or nervous or fearful about the day, or just not comfortable in my own skin to take advantage of the opportunities I have, or just feeling like I don't have what I need to survive and thrive. But when I do that morning routine, I know I have everything that I need, and we need that constant reminder.
Yes. Yeah, tell that story. That's a wonderful depiction. I'm gonna pull out revolutionaries. One thing that he said, and I really want just to illuminate, because you're gonna be like, wait, you're in a closet and you feel like a newborn when you get out. But it's a wonderful analogy. I mean, it's a wonderful analogy, Chazz, in that you have a dedicated space. And if we're really thinking about the analogy of birth, going into a safe space, and we think about it, and I've never birthed a child, but I've heard a number of people talk about it. What it feels like to be pregnant, and it'll be interesting. And this is I've never read a story about a child or a person talking about what it was like to be in the amniotic sac with their mother. But I can only make the assumption that that is the safest place for, because that is the safe. You are growing inside of someone's body. You are being fulfilled. If we're talking about that, where you are being fulfilled, you're being nourished by your mother. You're being nourished in every way that will allow you to grow to a point where you have the ability to now be birthed out into the world. And think about that. You think about the safety, the nourishment, the care that goes into by your mother to gestate you. Now, all these big words, to gestate you through the process and then birth you into the world and then continue to care. And so the point that I'm belaboring here, Chazz, is that it would seem like the closet in this instance is your amniotic sac, and the meditation is the gestation that then will allow yourself to then birth you into that day. And that is a very, very interesting thing to think about. I'm going to stop there because I see you. What do you want to say? What does that bring up for you?
No, I appreciate the breakdown there, because you're actually right. I didn't even think about what I was saying. It is kind of like returning home. It is my safe space. It is, me to become more familiar with myself. And, that's what meditation means, is to become familiar with. And I think if you spend just a couple of minutes a day in slowing down your thoughts and knowing who you are, your life seems to go in a way that supports, where you should be going. And I always find that when I spend time with myself and I know myself better, I'm able to show up better in no matter what hat I'm wearing, as a husband, as a professional on the job, as an author, as a speaker, because I'm keenly aware of the emotions that rise and the emotions that fall. I'm keenly aware of the thoughts that rise and the thoughts that fall. And then, all the sciences that I've studied in neuroscience and positive psychology also are proving that, meditation sessions are really accelerating our mental capacities in terms of concentration and focus. When I'm on a podcast with you, I'm here. I'm literally not thinking about anything else, because I've gotten to the repetition of being more present with what I'm thinking about, as opposed to regretting the past or worrying about the future. I'm here in this present moment. So there's lots of neuroscience that has proved this very fact on, 6-minute, 10-minute meditations per day.
Right. I love that. And thank you for illuminating that, because meditation does force you to be present, because we think about the monkey mind and you have to bring yourself back, sitting down and meditating in quiet, or if there's music playing. I know for me, and I will personalize this, is that when I do meditate, and when I do meditate on a regular basis, I do find that my life does slow down. It slows down tremendously. I am calmer in thinking about that, and then I supplement that with L-theanine and green tea, which then slows down my brain and actually allows my alpha and alpha waves to really be present, so I can really be focused. I can really, really be focused during my day. However, and I want to say this to you, revolutionaries, is that I'm not perfect, and I don't always meditate in the morning. And when those mornings that I don't meditate, and when the first thing that I do is pick up the phone, and I begin to scroll. And even though I'm not scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, I begin to read the news. I begin to read what's going on with the financial markets. I begin to read what's happening in venture capital. I begin to read what's going on in entrepreneurship. My mind has gone from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. And my physiological state is then very, very heightened. And so now I am then now trying to purge this heightened anxious state, because if I had just shifted my mindset and my practice, as the good brother just said, I could have slowed down my morning and then begin to ramp it up in a manner that my brain and my neurology is actually prepared for the day, instead of going from 0 to 100 like I'm in my electric car, very, very fast. So it is a very, very interesting thing to provide balance. Is there anything else in your morning ritual, Chazz, that you would give as a strategy or a tip to our revolutionaries to help them find balance and to slow their lives down?
Yeah. There's one thing that I do that is super critical as it relates to my focus and concentration. So my whole thing is, we want to achieve more, but we also want to stress less. But some people feel like, taking the time to integrate, wellness practices takes them away from life, or causes them to kind of slow down and not achieve the things that they want to. One of the principal points that I've pointed out in the book is, when you start to integrate these wellness practices, it actually accelerates your achievement, but also causes you to stress less. So an example would be, in the morning, when I wake up at 5 a.m., the first thing I do is put on workout clothes and I do a mile run. The reason why I do that is because they've actually studied a group of German scientists back in 2007 wanted to study how aerobic exercise influenced the brain. And what they basically wanted to study was how aerobics exercise influenced our brain capacities in terms of learning. So they had two groups of people, and the first group learned new vocabulary words before working out. The second group learned new vocabulary words after. Sure enough, the individuals that learned the new vocabulary words after an aerobic exercise learned those new vocabulary words 30% faster.
Wow.
So one of the things that I always recommend to entrepreneurs, leaders, people who want to achieve more and stress less, work out first. Then do your task afterwards. Why? Because obviously you get the dopamine hit. The biggest one is your what's called the DMN, default mode network, the self-referential part of your brain begins to calm down. That chatty little voice in the back of your head shuts off. And that's how your concentration and focus goes up, and your mental capacities are really heightened, so you can give your best output on that particular task. So after I do my mile run, I do my meditation, hit the shower, I'm straight into writing. And between the hours of, I would say, 7 and 9 a.m., that's my focus time. So because I'm prepped for the day in the morning, I know that my brain is as sharp as it can be, because I've set up, I've used the science that's backing this, and then I feel the effects, and I'm like, this is the best sort of time for me to give my projects or my tasks my all. So that's a recommendation that I actually include in the book and what I include to the listeners.
I love that. And I want to just, because we have not said the name of the book, and I want to make sure it is now on pre-order, and you can get the book at any, when it comes out this summer. I want to make sure that folks know success starts within. Achieve your potential through radical self-care. And the author is our beloved friend, Chazz Scott. But just make sure, do you have a release date? Is there a release date?
Yep, the release date is June 27th, but you can pre-order it right now anywhere books are sold.
There you go. There you go. And I know Dr. Travis Batts, who is my recurring guest and my dear brother, who will be one of the first purchasers of your amazing book, because every guest that comes on this show, Dr. Travis Batts, makes sure that he reads, and so that we can dialogue about your book and this podcast. He is my dear brother, my good friend. He is my midwife, as we say all the time. It is so interesting to think about that, because as you were talking, I'm like, oh, because what happens is I do the opposite. I wake up, and if I meditate, if I've meditated, great. But then I start to work, because I was like, okay, I think I'm focused. And then I usually work out after I've had my focus time from about 8 to 11. But what you're saying, and the thing that I'm going to try to implement in my practice, is that jump on the Peloton for 20 minutes, see what Alex or the, all of my people, or Just King, at Peloton to really get 20 minutes, get 30 minutes, and then figure out how does that impact my body and my brain. And what you're saying, that the science is that I'm actually going to be better than what I am right now. So I'm anxious to try that out. And revolutionaries, I want you to let us know what it's like. Get up, right? Get outside, get some cardio, get that blood pumping, and then jump into your work, and let us know how that focuses you. It'd be interesting to see, particularly, because you have tweaked Dr. Corprew, the psychologist who loves neuroscience, who loves the brain, and wants to hack the brain as much as possible. As I said, L-theanine is one thing that I take to allow to keep me focused. So if you drink matcha, if you drink green tea, I also supplement with L-theanine. You'll get that, that boost of alpha waves that will allow you to be more focused. So I appreciate that. Let's jump more into the book, Chazz. And I want folks to go out and get it once it comes out June 27th. And I don't want you to give the tea away, as we say, but, tell us why folks will enjoy this book, and what are some of the things that what are one or two things that they might be able to then impart into their lives by reading the book?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I want to kind of start off why I wrote it. So for me, I've always been interested in trying to improve the quality of my life. And I don't mean, in the future, I mean right now. I want to improve the quality of my life right now. And one of the things I think is so interesting, especially in America, is we've almost been hypnotized in terms of, if I get the car, if I get the house, if I get the money, if I get the wife or husband, I'm going to be happy. Now, there's nothing wrong with having those goals, but one of the things that I've found in my own life and through this research is you can create your happiness and your fulfillment and your success, as well as your well-being, in the here and now, as opposed to waiting into the future. Mm-hmm. Now, how can you do that? Through integrative practices of well-being, putting your well-being first. This book is about illuminating this principle, that your success is only viable as your inner well-being. So if you focus on your well-being first, you'll achieve, you'll become, you'll do all the things that you are supposed to do on this earth plane. But if you don't know how to take care of yourself, through a term that I like to say, radical self-care in the book, then you won't adequately be able to reach your potential, because your brain and body is not equipped to handle what it is that's trying to come through you. We all have gifts and talents. We all have the ability to really rise and do the best that we can with what we have. However, we're eating like crap. We're not exercising daily. We're trying to control other people, but we have no idea how to control our own nervous system. These are things that in this book will completely transform your life, because I've realized that if you don't know how to control your mind, and if you don't know how to influence your body as it relates to stress, the world is controlling you. You are not controlling the world. And I always like to say this, and this is actually in the book: simple breathing exercises, breath work, meditation, exercise, these different practices actually enhance who you are as a person, so you can really bring in or bring out, that true, authentic self of who you are. And if you can't master your nervous system as it relates to like stress and anxiety and the things that we just naturally have throughout life, life is controlling you. You're not controlling life. So simple techniques like breath work allow you to get control of your own nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system. So you can spin it down and spin up your parasympathetic nervous system so that you can calm yourself during states of stress, or feeling uncomfortable about speaking in front of folks, or feeling uncomfortable about doing a podcast. These integrated practices you can use throughout every part of your life so that you can be your best self when it matters.
Yes.
A lot of people don't have these tools because we're not exposed to them. And a lot of times we don't naturally go seek these tools until something happens and we feel like we are not operating like how we should be, or our sense of quality of life isn't what we think it should be. And then we actively go seek. But yeah, I'm very excited about this book. This book is about really empowering yourself through well-being, not postponing your joy to achieve your goals or losing your peace of mind in the hustle of the pursuit of your dreams. It's about creating your success right here, right now through well-being, because we always try to wait. The worst thing that you can do is climb a mountain, right? Get to the summit, realize you've been climbing the wrong mountain. You haven't been enjoying the process, and you've wasted many years of your life. This book is about alignment. This book is about enjoying the process of life so that you can really, truly reach your potential.
Yeah, brother. I mean, my revolutionaries know he's going to say he loves it. I love it because, one, if we're thinking about this, right, we talk about revolt and evolve all the time on this show. And revolt and evolve is the first tenet of fulfilling your revolution. The revolt and evolve is that you've got to revolt from behaviors that are stymieing you from being the best version of yourself. It has to happen. You have to revolt and evolve into behaviors and incorporate behaviors that will allow you to then move up that ladder. Because what happens is, and I love the analogy, what you said, is that we can be climbing the wrong mountain. As Pastor Osaze Murray says, is that you can put the ladder up against a building and climb the building and realize, as you just said, this wasn't even the right building. But what happened is that radical self-care, right, will allow you to say, okay, let me say, what is the building or what is the mountain that I actually need to climb? And I should not have to wait. The thing that always goes through my mind, and this is me, this is me, Chazz, because all of this sounds great, right? And for a man who's been studying masculinity for the last, I don't know, almost 20 years now, who's been a part of this masculinity conversation, who was a, well-known researcher and author of masculinity when I was a academician. This feels right that some of my male revolutionaries will be like, I'm used to this. I thrive in this, right? I thrive in when my body's a little tense, right? I thrive in that stress. That's where I am. That's being a man, right? That's what I'm. I can only be a protector when I'm a little heightened. What do you say to them? Because we both know the science behind them, but they're going to be like, man, corporate, this is a little frou-frou for me. This is a little woo-woo. This is a little feminine for me. Breath work, right? You talking about, wait a minute, yoga? Like, go back to Reggie Hubbard's episode. But what do you say to them? Chazz, what do you say to them?
No, I like the argument, and it is a mind shift. I think particularly in America, we're so left-brained, we're so analytical, we're so achieve this, achieve that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to balance both parts of your brain, and the right brain, which is more the creative side. One of the things I've realized is we are not adequately using our entire brains in order for us to achieve our full selves. And if you start to do these practices, you'll start to see the benefits, reap the benefits, and realize the more I do this, the better I become. And not only that, my life gets better. And I've seen the changes in my own life. When I was in school down in Hampton University,
HU,
the real HU, I know a lot of people get a kick out of that. So one of my friends introduced me to a book called Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, completely transformed my life. And it caused me to read every book I could on personal development in neuroscience, in metaphysics and esoteric science and quantum physics, because I just wanted to understand who we are and what it is that we're here to do and how to increase the quality of my life. And I got to a point where I realized my entire life changed because how I thought. Yeah. How can we give this to underserved youth? How can I coach entrepreneurs and leaders so they can be the best leaders in their fields? And I realized that success in life isn't just about achievement. It isn't just about accomplishing your goals. Success in life is about managing your nervous system. Because if you can manage your nervous system, you can master your destiny. And I find that a lot of people have no idea how to manage their nervous system. I'll give you a quick example. And this was me a couple years ago. I live in the DC area. Traffic is terrible around 5 o'clock, right? If somebody were to cut you off, you would go off. You would be pissed. You would be livid. That external event influenced how you felt internally. Mm-hmm. The world is affecting how you feel internally. That does not have to be the case. If you start to integrate meditation, breath work, you become aware of what you're thinking, you become aware of your emotions that rise and fall, you'll realize that there's no event external from you that can influence you internally. This is managing your nervous system. So for me, if somebody were to cut me off, maybe they're having a bad day. I change my perspective. I'm gonna send them a prayer. Keep on moving. I'm not gonna allow them to upset how I feel internally, because I have goals to reach. I have to come home to a wife and be the best person I can be. I'm not going to allow that event to carry me negatively back home where it affects my wife or, into the workplace, no matter where I'm going. So the biggest thing that you can do is to master your nervous system to master your destiny. Because in the event that you start writing a book, you start doing speaking engagements, you start really achieving and doing your gifts and doing your thing, there are going to be times where it's going to be tough for you because of, what people are saying about you or the stress that may arise. More money brings more problems. How do you manage all that? You manage that through managing your inner well-being. This is one of the main reasons why celebrities and people that are rich, not all of them, some of them are very happy and have a very balanced life, but a lot of them obtain a lot of material success, but they're broken inside. They do not have the inner well-being, the body temple that is able to support the stress that is happening in their external life. For me, as I do these integrative practices, I feel like I bounce off of stress. I feel like, I can levitate over things much more adaptly than I would have if I didn't do these practices, because I know what that feels like when I don't.
Chazz, that's a masterclass in itself right there, because I think that it starts with, if you can master your nervous system, you can conquer the world, right? You can achieve your destiny, is what you said. You can, and I think that in itself right there is the crux of the matter, right there. The crux. If we can master our nervous system and the body, and we think about this, what is our right? Let's be really, really heady real quick, right? Let's get really, really smart for a second. Your nervous system is there to protect you. Right? It is a response. It is a response where our ancestors, our nervous system has evolved over time as a response to certain things, so we could actually understand about predation and how to protect ourselves. But in our current society, our nervous systems actually sometimes don't work as they should. And we have to then use our limbic systems, our ability, right, to actually think critically about situations, because our nervous systems are innate responses. It is an innate response to a stimuli. Here we go. Like I said, let's get really, really smart. We will process stimuli, 11 million bits of information per second. Right? Think about that, right? And so our brain and body are processing all of these different things. And so it doesn't have time. Our nervous system doesn't have the time to like, well, think about that before you get upset or you get anxious or, all the different things. It just responds, right? When you put your hand on a hot stove, your brain doesn't say, well, it's too hot. No, your hand is coming off before it even thinks about that. And so what this eloquent, smart brother is just saying is that we have to spend time. Viktor Frankl says is that there is a segment between stimulus and response. There's a space between stimulus and response where we are the only animal on that planet that has the ability to think critically about what our response is going to be after stimuli. And if we bring this full circle, dear brother, if we know how to slow it down through meditation, right? Wait. I feel this way. Should I feel this way? How do I then respond to this over here? Do I react? How do I react? You know what I'm saying? How am I reacting? One of the things that I am fascinated with right now, and I'm going to say this, and I probably have never said this on the show, or maybe I have, is it's the red pill. And I'm going to say this in the context, the red pill in this context is emotional intelligence. And I feel like, Chazz, is that the more self-aware that you are, the more emotionally intelligent that you are, you vastly see the world differently, that you react differently, that you begin to ask questions from curiosity instead of response. And that in itself is so revolting from past behavior for me. Because what happens is we can create stories. And our stories will then create a physiological response. You did this to me. You haven't done this to me. And what happens in emotional intelligence is that our job is to then validate stories that our brain and nervous system, our brain creates and then our body reacts to. But if we validate stories or invalidate them, it goes back to what you're just saying. If we can control our nervous system, we can control our destiny. Beautiful thing when you slow down and not react without validating the stories that are in our mind. I'll stop there. But look, I can get real pedestal-y.
No, I love that. And I think one of the things has been important for me in terms of managing my nervous system because, a lot of the personal development speakers out here, they'll always say, think positive. And of course, positive thinking has definitely transformed my life. But that's the software, right? From a hardware perspective, there are things that you can do to influence your body, influence your nervous system. And breath work has been a foundation for me. When I'm feeling some tense emotions or some anxiety or just some stress. If I have a series of tasks that I know I need to do throughout the day and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them all done, or I'm feeling stressed at looking at the computer all day, I will take a step back and I'll do some breath work. Many people use the 4-7-8 technique, and I use that quite often to try and bring awareness to myself and to slow down my sympathetic nervous system. And, before I do a meditation, I'll do a breath work to really kind of calm me down. So for those that, how do I stop my thoughts? How do I do meditation? It's really not necessarily stopping your thoughts. It's just paying attention to them. And if you do a breath work exercise, and you can find them on YouTube, type in, breathwork technique, it'll actually calm you down and you're able to kind of ease into a meditation session and focus on your breath or focus on a candlelight, whatever it is that you want to focus on. And it's about bringing awareness back to yourself. And as soon as your thoughts begin to drift, you just bring it back. One thing I do want to mention that you had talked about is, yes, our brains take in 11 million bits of information per second. Our conscious minds, and you talked about this a little bit, our conscious minds only take in 50 bits of information per second. So, it's a huge disparity in terms of what's actually coming in and what's actually influencing who we are. We're not even consciously aware of most of it. So this is critically important about who you expose yourself to, what type of friends you have, what type of content you view on social media. In the book, I talk about the importance of a morning routine. And you talked about making sure that you're very intentional about what you're doing when you wake up in the morning, because there are a whole lot of marketing conglomerates and companies and news stations that are looking for you to click, to scroll, to buy, to spin you up into a fearful response to buy something to give you comfort. It's a system. But if you have intention or a practice in the morning, you control the day, not those marketing conglomerates or those companies. So that's why it's really important to set an intention and to know that all of those things, books, podcasts, looking on social media, can influence how you feel internally, and you may not even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. And I realize, even for me, and I'm always a tad bit vulnerable on the show, like what, conversely between my Instagram and what my Facebook, Facebook is typically for an older generation of folks. And then I can scroll through Facebook and see things. And to be honest with you, Chazz, sometimes feel a sense of lack. And that sense of lack can then cause a physiological response, right? A mental and physiological response. And so understand, again, creating a story of lack. And how do I fight that story? Well, one, the practice was you didn't need to get on Facebook early in the morning. Right? Because and the consciousness of knowing that you're going to potentially internalize this from a sense of lack instead of a sense of abundance, because there are 4,000 or 4,500 folks on your Facebook page, right? You're going to see this as a sense of lack instead of abundance. And now again, I have to purge those thoughts and go through it instead of waking up, slowing myself down, and then. And I'll even say this, Chazz, giving myself gratitude and grace for the decisions that I've made in my life. And I think that's big because, again, if you can control your nervous system, you can control your destiny. And I think that is the theme of this today. By radical self-care, you have the ability to control your thoughts and feelings and actions and that nervous system. Because I know when I get anxious, Chazz, I have to then go through the mental gymnastics of saying, one, you're not under threat. And that is, if we go back to this, and I'll jump on this pedestal one more time, going back to this, is that your nervous system is there to alert you to threat. And sometimes that threat is not in existence. Your nervous system and brain have perceived something that may not be there. And you have to then you actually practice and tell my brain there is no threat. And one of the ways is interesting, and I'll give revolutionaries a way that I practice this, is that I will jump into a cold shower. Because then, right, if we're talking about controlling your nervous system and controlling a response that is happening, like why would anybody jump into a really, a cold shower or an ice bath? Well, one, the immunity, it's drawing all of the blood and the immunity and the care boosting that it has for your body. But you then have to practice right then in the moment to tell your body that it is not threatening, that you're not going to die, that you need to jump out of this ice cold bath very, very quickly because your nervous system is saying, threat, woo, woo. The alarms are going off. You then have to immediately say, okay, I can sit in this very cold water. I am not under threat. I am okay. Yes, it's cold, but no one is coming to kill me. I have the chance to get out when I want. That is a practice. And I'm sure, talk about that, because I'm sure that comes up somewhere in your book. How do you practice, right, controlling your nervous system? That's the question of the podcast right there. How do you control your nervous system?
Yeah, no, Charles, I appreciate you for bringing up the cold shower example, because that is a practice that I actually use in the morning. I only do it Monday through Friday because the weekend is just so tough. I think you kind of build up a response to it, but it is really hard. But I've noticed when I do a cold shower in the morning, it kind of shocks my nervous system, and throughout the rest of the day, it's like nothing can phase me because I've already been shocked. But one of the things I think you bring up, I think this is especially important for all of our listeners and you and I, is, this is a journey. It's not you're going to do, 10 meditations, one meditation, and you're good. For myself, and I think you can say the same thing, we're learning these things so we can increase the quality of our life throughout our journey. And when those times of stress or anxiety do arise, we have something to draw from, and we can use them to change how we feel in the moment, to get us new results. And for myself, we're not perfectionists. We're not going to be perfect all the time, and life isn't always going to be easy. But if you have these tools, you'll be able to cope more effectively. You'll be able to overcome more effectively with ease and compassion and empathy for yourself and others. So as it relates to techniques, technique is really important. Breathe in 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and let go for 8. The whole premise behind that is to, when we're doing emails and we're stressed out, we have kind of these short breaths, and that really doesn't allow us to relax. That actually spins up your fight or flight system. But studies have actually confirmed that when your out breath is longer than your in breath, you actually spin down your sympathetic nervous system and spin up your parasympathetic nervous system to actually calm you. And that is one of the tools that I use all the time. Cold showers are another one. Meditation, obviously. Exercise is another one. But a key thing that you mentioned, outside of kind of doing the software stuff, the hardware stuff, outside of doing the hardware stuff is the software stuff, challenging how you think. Every thought that you think is not true. I will say that one more time. Every thought that you think is not true. I remember the first time I read that and I started to meditate on it, I didn't understand it. I really didn't. I got to a point where I was like, if I'm thinking, it's got to be true, because if I didn't have the thought, why am I having the thought? Right. But one of the things that you'll realize through mindfulness meditation, emotional intelligence, I don't care what name you call it, you'll begin to identify that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are influenced by external things. Somebody cutting you off, you scrolling on social media, your wife, your husband. It's influenced by external things. Now, when that external stimuli, as you say, influenced how you feel internally, you have a thought. Now, every thought that you think is not true. So it's a important practice to challenge your thoughts, to ask yourself, is this thought true? Where did this thought derive from? Because you're building the emotional intelligence capacity to realize that you can challenge those thoughts. And when you begin to have this conversation with yourself, right? And that's really kind of what your thoughts are. You're having like a conversation with yourself. So you better be on your side. You better be your biggest cheerleader. You will begin to realize that you can manage it. You can overcome it. You can know that I am not my thoughts. I am a spiritual being, and I know I'm on this earth in a physical body. And when you do meditation, do mindfulness, you'll realize that your thoughts are like a cloud floating past you, just floating past you. And you don't have to attach yourself to it unless you want to. And, it takes a while. It took me a while to get to that point when I started reading it. But when I started practicing it and seeing it in my own life, I've realized not every thought you think is true.
Yeah, I love that. Not every thought that you think is true. And one of the things that I take from my beloved Camelback is our ability to really rally around our culture, which was centered on conscious leadership. And one, feeling your feelings all the way through. Two, taking 100% responsibility for your actions, and thinking about that. But like you said, understanding, like being able to validate the stories that we tell ourselves. And our thoughts, like you said, are an amalgamation of our experiences. I think this way because I experience things, and our brain doesn't want to go through the entire algorithm. It uses a heuristic right? Which is, heuristics are not always right. Like you said, we are not our thoughts. We need to validate them. Dear brother, look, this has gone by so fast. It's always good. And my revolutionaries are in my ear saying, yo, you didn't ask the question. Like, you didn't ask him the question. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So Chazz Scott, author, right? Let me make sure, author. The success starts within, right? Success starts within. Achieve your potential through radical self-care. Radical self-care. What's your revolution?
My revolution is really to help individuals really understand that the ultimate success in life is mastering who you are internally, your inner well-being. And if I can give people the tools to master their inner well-being, their entire lives will change. So much of us are trying to master people. We're trying to master money and master gaining certain achievements. There's nothing wrong with that, but I can tell you that there is a faster path to that. All those external desires that you want, if you master your well-being first, you will achieve those goals anyhow.
Yeah. I love that. Revolt and evolve. That is a core component of what we do. Revolt from the person that you were, right? And master the person that you need to be the best version of yourself, right? So you can control your nervous system to control your destiny. I love this. This is why I do this show, man. I get super excited, man. Look, Revolutionize, I want you to go out. Make sure June 27th is the release date. You can find this book anywhere that you can get books. Make sure you go out and buy it. And I want to hear from you. And so does Chazz Scott about what are the things that you're implementing in your day from reading this wonderful masterpiece of how you can then revolt from these old behaviors. Like I'm thinking about what are the things that I need to incorporate? What are the things that I need to let go to evolve into this more, to slow my pace? Because I don't want to look up 5 years from now. Like, man, I interviewed, Chazz, May 31st, 2023, and it's 2026, it's 2030. I'm like, wait, it's gone. I want to slow down. Take your breath, right? Find your people. Be a different person, right? Go read this book, Revolutionaries. You know that we are here for you. And you know what I'm going to say. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I want you to be able to answer what we think is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's a revolution? We will talk to you soon. Have a great week.